Okay, so we are up to Mishlei 14:8, Yud Dalet Ches. This one's not difficult to translate, but awkward to translate. Chochmas Arum Havin Darko, the Ivelis Ksilim Mirma. The first half is the one that's hard to translate.
The wisdom of cunning.
So the wisdom of the cunning man.
Oh.
Yeah, Orma is cunning. Arum is cunning person.
Understand his way.
Yeah, so Havin is, I don't know why it's weird. I don't know what it should be. I guess Mavin Darko would make sense. Havin is unclear how to translate it. So we'll see the English do this. Okay. So it will say understands his way, but we're going to modify it. The Ivelis Ksilim Mirma. Yeah. Anyone?
And foolishness.
Yep. Foolishness.
The foolish.
Yeah. Okay. Of fools. Okay. And this is foolishness with like Ivelis, and then fools is Ksilim Mirma. Deceit. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So Sadigon translates. This is one of his more like interpretive translations. Chachmas hapikeach tavin matzavav. The wisdom of the clever person. Tavin. So he's saying here that Tavin is feminine and Chachma is feminine. So it's not that he understands. It's his wisdom. I guess. Understands his circumstances. The Ivelis Haksilim Tarmisan, but the foolishness of fools is their deceit. We've got one packet. I think that was yours. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Targum I forgot to look at. Chachmasa de Arima Buna de Archa Buna de Archa. That's also interesting. All right, that's very strange. Okay, so the wisdom of the cunning person is understanding of the way. Okay, very Taoist. Uvashat yusa desachle ramayusa. I don't know exactly how to translate the bays there. And in the foolishness of fools is deceit. Okay, everyone's kind of struggling with the nuances of this pasuk. Okay, so in the English translations, we have the wisdom of the wisdom of the clever is to understand his way. Okay, like the infinitive, to understand. And the folly of fools is deceit. Rav Hirsch says the wisdom of the shrewd man is, and then he puts in brackets, to make his ways understandable. But the unwisdom of fools wants deception. I don't know what that means, but I like unwisdom. Yeah, I guess that's how he's translating Ivelis, which is strange. I don't know if that's what he usually does. I feel like I've never seen that before. Alter says the shrewd man wisdom is to understand his own way. So he's taking Darko as his own way. But the folly of dullards is deceives them. Wait a second here. Goes down, please, to David. Yeah, so Alter here in his footnote says literally the folly of dullards is deceit. Given the antithetical parallelism with the first verse, this has to mean not that they are deceitful, but that they deceive themselves. Okay, I don't know if it has to mean that, Mr. Alter, but yeah. All right, so let's get our translation down here and keep these up. Yeah.
Is one of the character types?
Yeah, I'll show you the first mention of it because this is probably relevant. The first mention here.
This is last or two,
was what? Arum. I can't remember. But in the very beginning of Mishlei, this is one of the mission statements. Where are we? Yeah, Arma Lenar to give Arma to the Pesi. So it's a knowledge type, and then Arum is also a personality type, or Mishleic archetype. Yeah. Oops, hold on just a second here. Let me just make this a little bit bigger in case we need it. Yeah, okay, so our questions are, we'll just translate Sean's comment to the question. What is the definition of Arum in this context? Yeah, what does it mean to understand his way? I guess let's break that down into a bunch of questions, right? What is Darko? Okay, what is Havanas Darko? And then how does the Chachmas Arum facilitate Havanas Darko.
Right. Does that mean that the Arum is understanding it through his Chachma, or it's almost like the abstract idea of Chachma, it's understanding it?
It sounds like his Chachma, because Chachmas Arum, right? So we also have to ask, what is the Chachma here? What is Chachmas Arum? Yeah, Ezra?
Is it possible that it's translating it? It's like telling you to understand the way of the Chachma, the way of the Chachma of the Arum.
Do you mean like to translate it as a command?
Yeah, like Chachmas Arum, Havin Darkam. Go understand this way.
I don't think so, because I think that would have to be either Tavin or Bin or something. I don't know enough exactly about the structure of Havin.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a command. I mean, implicitly it might be telling you that, but yeah, David.
Read also translation as I'm trying to understand the ones. Are you able to translate as the wisdom of the cunning man is understanding his way?
Yes. Yeah, that's close to Alter and our school, right? Is understanding his way?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, we're just going to highlight this because this is like not clear how to translate that. So just keep that flexible.
For the second half of the foolishness of fool's deceit.
Yeah.
Are you able to make like a little bit of a harder stop between the Kisalim, Mirma? Like the foolishness of the fools is their deceit.
Yeah. So they looks like lots of people want to add other words there. Right. I guess our school takes it straight. The unwisdom of fools wants deception. Strange. Alter is deceives them.
Okay.
Sadigon had foolishness of fools is their deceit.
Right.
Yeah. So we got to keep that vague also. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like, how are we defining arm here, and what's the difference between arm and a chacham?
Yeah. All right. So what is and then how? I guess I'm going to put this as a separate question here. What exactly is the relationship between? I think out of packets. Yeah. What is the relationship between the Arum, right, who is characterized by Orma, okay, and the Chacham, who is characterized by Chachma, right? Chachma. Right, like why? I guess here, I don't know exactly how I ask this, but like, what is? I guess why is this pasuk associating, like the Arum with Chachma? Yeah, I mean that's kind of like implied in the question, what is Chachmas Arum? So in fact, I'm going to actually just merge these two questions here. Yeah, and likewise, I mean, I think you could ask a similar one for the Velas Ksilim. I mean, I don't think there's a word in Mishlei of Kasilut. That is a word, or Sichlus is a word that Shlomo uses in Koheles, and then Kasilut, I think, is used in Eov. But there's no like noun for the foolishness of fools. So you'll see this very commonly, the Ivelis of the Ksilim. But it's weird how Evil is a Mishleic archetype and Ivelis is a noun, but Ksil is Mishleic archetype, but it's not a noun, Yeah.
And also, like where would the arm fall in that spectrum? I don't know if that's a question.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask that question just because that's like kind of imposing. No, it's imposing it from without. Like I think we have the questions that reveals here. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. What is this deceit?
Yes.
Like, what does it mean?
Right.
And who is it acting on?
Right. Okay. What is this mirma? And then like who is deceiving whom? Right. Yeah. You remember the grammar lesson?
No.
He, who, him, whom.
I never learned that.
Yeah, it's very easy. Yeah, so subject is he, you say who, and then for object it's whom. So he, who, him, whom. Yeah.
What's the relationship between the two halves?
Yeah. What is the relationship between the two halves? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it seems like is the Arum's understanding only affecting him, and the Avelis' understanding only affecting himself? Like, is the Nirma affecting other people?
Right.
And then also, I guess would be the opposite of that is the Arum's understanding affecting only his?
Okay, right. So I'm going to put both those questions in one question, which is how many parties are in this pasuk, right? Is this I could see there being 2, 3, or 4. Right. In other words, so if it's 2, then it's just how the Chacham relates to his own derech. and how the avil relates to his own whatever. 3 would be that the chacham of the arum is, self-contained, like it's understanding his own way, and then the ivelis of the ksilim is deceiving others,
Right.
and then there could be an implied effect on others in the first half.
Right.
Yeah.
And like therefore what?
And
That's the
therefore,
question. Like
therefore what?
any
What is the practical
yeah.
application? Yeah, and then who is the audience? I'm also realizing here, Darko, plain shot is Darko is the derech of the arum, but I want to ask this just in case it's something else. Who is who's derech? Whose derech is this talking about? The arum's own derech, or now I know that someone's going to want to read this as the derech of the ksil, which is not it's not necessarily wrong, but it would be weird if ksilim is plural and darko is is singular. So I'll just say or someone else's. Yeah, I mean I think plain shot is that it's the arum's own derech. Yeah. What was I going to say? Are we good?
Unless it's linked up to the last pasuk.
Unless, yes. Let's just refresh our memories about the last pasuk. Oh, we're in the wrong parak here. Right.
That could work.
Yeah. 14:7. Lech mineged leish ksil uval yadat sifsei das. Go far away from the foolish man. And lest you not know the lips of knowledge, whatever, say it that way. Chachmas arum havin darko, so that would be the wisdom of the cunning person is to understand the way of the ish ksil. That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
The velas ksil in mirma, right? So in other words, I mean, not to say a whole idea there, but you'd be saying you've got the audience of pasuk 7 is being told to avoid the ish ksil, but the audience of pasuk ches, if it's the arum, is saying that he should understand the derech lish ksil. You could have a trio here.
It could almost be like the second half of 8 is telling you something about the
yes, right.
To diagnose the issue.
Right. So I'm just going to put this as a question here, which is, are we meant to read this with the previous pasuk? In which case, Darko might be a reference to the derech ish, not work, derech ish ksil. Yeah.
I was gonna say the methodology question.
Yeah.
Sukkim related.
That is a bit of a question. So we, after doing lots of Mishlei, have seen that there definitely are couplets or triplets of psukim that are just meant to be read as one long pasuk.
Right.
There are couplets and triplets of psukim, or clusters we call them, that are around the same subject. And then there's Rabbeinu Yonah's method, which is like an associative method that he'll say that there is a general order, but not in terms of linking the ideas. In terms of you need to understand one to get the other. He'll say, for example, let's say you have a pasuk about taiva, and then you have a pasuk about money. Okay, so we can learn each of those independently, but then Rabbeinu Yonah will often throw in a comment and say, because money is one of the biggest taivas, that's why he follows the subject with that.
Right.
And then there was also a period of time when Rabbi Moskowitz, it was a good couple of months there, maybe a full year, I can't remember now. Then Rabbi Moskowitz only wanted to learn clusters. He didn't want to learn individual psukim.
Right.
And so he just took large chunks and just got one idea out of all of that. I didn't like that phase so much. But I think it was good because it did force us to think in big terms. And we had an experience in Mishlei, Monday Night Mishlei. It seems like the earlier prakim do have much bigger clusters. In chapter 10 just has tons of tzaddik and rasha psukim, and so it's possible that there are super clusters in galaxies, right? That are planted throughout Mishlei. And then also we saw there's also collections of things that were written in a different style, what was the name of that? M&MP. Yeah. There's a whole section of I forgot how many of them there were, that were like
I think
intent
it was
30, yeah, some large
I was
number.
the whole thing about triplets and that, no? Like it was like a 10 or 11 triplets. Or
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So there are these. What was it?
That was the start.
Yes, right. Yeah. So the answer is yeah. there's some relation or order between it. Oh, but then you have a lot of explicit statements of let's see, hold on. I'm just gonna read you one just so you can see not based on my authority. Okay, I think this is one of the Ibn Kaspi here. Let's see. It's not there. There's like, oh, what was that it? No, that's different. Green means it's methodology, like a methodology, an overt methodology statement. Okay, I can't find where it is right now, but there are many meforshim who say explicitly that there's no order in the pasukim. So they're not denying the phenomena I just said, but they're just saying like, this is after all a book of Proverbs. So like, Proverbs by their nature are independent standing. They don't have any organization. Right. This is also why like people like Rav Hirsch, I don't know if anyone else other than Rav Hirsch did this, but when he wrote his book on Mishlei, he grouped them by subject. I also have a private theory as to an advantage you get from learning this without connection between the subjects is because in life doesn't throw decisions at you in sequential topical order, like you just get bombarded with many different things. And so part of the skill of Mishlei is asking that question, what is the subject? And like seeing, like going from one subject to another in from one pasuk to another, like just a completely new subject is more akin to like the real life experience of applying Mishlei.
That was my next question, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which was?
What is the subject?
Oh, was the subject. Okay, yeah. What is the subject of this pasuk? Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna put this on the chat. If anyone of you wants to do a little chesed, that might take just a minute of your time. So I had kind of like we just got done with the first quarter in my high school class, and I kind of forgot that this is a thing that like it is unusual for students to learn at such a slow pace of one pasuk a week. And we typically take 2 or 3 days to do a pasuk, because it's like 35-minute, ish periods, right? So there's some discontent at the slow pacing. Okay, so one of their NCSY advisors is one of my longtime students of Mishlei, and so like she was saying like, no, you guys don't realize like like the whole thing is like the benefit is from the analysis and like But if any of you, I'll post this an official like invitation in the chat. If anyone wants to like address that in like a very short voice message, like how you would say like the benefits. Obviously, there is a benefit of like just accumulating many ideas, but quantity comes at a cost of depth and quality. So based on your experience, like what would you say to a high schooler who has that like that complaint? Yeah. Okay, but we won't talk about that now. Yeah. Okay, so I think we got all. Yeah, David.
Another question within the home. Does this pasuk work for both the positive side of home and the negative side of home? Yeah. So David's referring to the fact that certainly in Tanakh, right, you see that Arum is not necessarily positive, as we see from the Nachash, is Arum Mikol Chayas Hasadeh, and that's a bad guy, So my personal theory is that Arum is like the Arum can go both ways. Arum is like a potential that can develop into a Chacham or can develop into a Rasha.
Chachma itself can be used both ways.
The way Mishlei talks about it, Chachma is not used negative. There's a pasuk in Yirmiyahu that says Chachamim Hema Lahara, that they're Chachamim for evil, but I'm not aware of a single pasuk in Mishlei that uses Chacham in a negative way. I'm also not aware of a pasuk in Mishlei that uses Arum in a negative way, so maybe you should just ignore that as well. But my understanding of Arma is that it can be used negatively as well. So yeah, Sean, you have an idea? Yeah, sure. Oh, okay. And then Isaac, you have another question? You have an approach?
I have an approach.
Okay, all right. So we'll go with Sean first.
Okay, so I also want to relate it back to last week's pasuk, but not in the way in which we were looking in shiur. But to start off with the pasuk itself, so I was translated it as the wisdom of the cunning man understands his way, meaning he has self-knowledge.
Okay.
But the foolishness of fools is, and then I'm going to insert a word there, self-deceit.
Okay. But the foolish, I'm just going to write this down. Remember, of fools is self-deceit. Yeah. Okay.
And so going back to last week's pasuk, so one of the things that we're talking about is that when you are surrounded amongst Kesilim, so they have very emotional language that triggers you and starts you relating to the ideas in a way which like you're gonna self-justify certain things.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that the chacham, or like the person who surrounds himself with ksilim who are very emotional, and when you get emotional, you have to justify that emotion.
Yeah.
And that's going to destroy your ability to be self-aware of yourself, which is why you're not going to be able to then have lips of knowledge, because your entire like self-consciousness and that part of you that's saying, hey, let's investigate this thing, or let's be critical of this, is going to slowly get worn away. So
okay.
That's what pasuk is
okay, that's good. All right. So in the previous pasuk, we spoke about the pernicious, I'll use that word, influence of the effect of hanging around ksilim. No, I can't. I actually don't know what it means. I think it means like
it's like slow, gradual, like badness. Not badness, but Frederick Douglass uses it to describe slave owners.
Yeah. Are you sure you're not thinking of insidious?
No.
Having a harmful effect, especially in a gradual or subtle way.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, nice. Okay, so Freddie D. Okay, so he said Frederick Douglass. That's what we used to call him in AP English. All right. So the pernicious effect of hanging around ksilim, and this is a particular, right? This is one of those effects that because ksilim are emotional and trigger emotional reactions in you, and because we feel the need to rationalize our emotions, then hanging around ksilim for too long, too much will there's what verb would you use here? Wear away? No.
Deteriorate.
Inhibit, deteriorate, block, corrupt. Yeah, so corrupt your ability to have self-knowledge, right? So that's the second half, that the ivelis of ksilim, when you're exposed to it, well, their ivelis is that they don't have self-knowledge, but then the reason why we're being told this is we're not talking to them, we're talking to people who hang around them. Yeah. Right, yeah. This also fits in with my understanding. I'm just gonna go ahead and say my understanding of Arma, right? So my understanding of Arma is specifically knowledge of how the emotions corrupt your thinking, okay? That's why the Pesi, who's the naive simpleton, who's unaware of how much his emotions influence his thinking, or how much like the people around him affect his emotions, which affect his thinking. He needs Arma. That's why all the psukim are like L'seis l'psaim Arma. And then this is also why, and there's another pasuk, Pesi yamin l'chol davar, the arum yavin la'ashuro. The arum understands it at each step. And that's also why the arum can be Russia, because if you know how much emotions affect thinking, then you can use that to manipulate other people. So this is the first half. Did you say something for the first half explicitly, or is just
it's more talking about what the chachma is that's being lost?
Okay, right.
And then how the ksilim are opposite to that.
Right. So it's to find the specific chachma that is lost. Okay, namely orma, which is knowledge of one's own psyche and how it affects thinking. Okay, and like by implication, urging the guy who is avoiding ksilim from the previous pasuk, right, to develop this faculty. Yeah. All right. I like that approach a lot. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
And then we'll go with Isaac, and then we'll go with David. Yeah.
Yeah. So one question I have is the ksilim. Is there like no way out for them? Like, is there a way that they can?
Yeah, we read a Rabbeinu Yonah once, where he says that you cannot instruct the ksil from outside, like you can't give him a tochacha. The only hope of the ksil learning, is if he suffers a consequence, and he in the immediate wake of that consequence, like realizes that it stemmed from his bad decision making. But that's a very narrow window, because I was just doing I'm writing a article about like a dog that returns to his vomit to eat his own vomit. So to a fool, a Ksil repeats his foolishness. And so it's not very likely for the Ksil to actually like do that. But if it's a bad enough consequence, and if it gives him enough pause, and if he realizes that it was his mistake, like in an undeniable way, then there's hope, you know.
Yeah, and my second question is on the first half of the pasuk.
Oh, sorry. I just realized also my use of the phrase "there's hope" reminds me of another pasuk, which also gives a place to look. I don't know what the pasuk is, but I don't know what the meaning is, but Tikva L'Ksil. Yeah, I think it's talking about lates. Or no, Chacham Einav. Yeah. So Ra'isi Ish Chacham Einav, Tikva L'Ksil Mimeno, I think. Let's see if that's right. Click. Okay. Ra'is, 26:12. Ra'isa Ish Chacham Einav, Tikva L'Ksil Mimeno. I've seen a man who is wise in his own eyes. There's more hope for the Ksil than him, which implies that he does have hope. The Ksil does have hope, right? Sorry. The Ksil has more hope. And then similarly, I'm not familiar with this one. Chazisa ish at bidvarav. I've seen a man who is impulsive with his words. Tikva l'ksil mimeno. There's more hope for the Ksil than him. Yeah. So that does imply that there is hope. So you look there if you want to see what his hope is. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, for the first half of the puzzle. Yeah. So what's the what are we learning about on the first half?
So the way Sean's learning it is the direct point of the first half of the pasuk is it's defining the type of perfection that is going to be lost if you hang around the Ksilin. And that is namely, it's the opposite of self-deceit, it's self-knowledge. And specifically it's self-knowledge of your psyche, right? Of your emotions, the way we're saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. And with what you're saying in terms of the Ksil,
yeah,
I would say taking responsibility is realizing that your consequences, the things that are happening in your life, are through your own,
right,
which is a type of self-knowledge.
Right. Yeah, correct. Right. That's also true. So it's not just knowledge of your own emotions, it's knowledge of you know, I guess the decision-making ramifications of your emotions, like both in terms of like diagnosing them and then avoiding similar things in the future. Question on this approach, or yeah.
The way you translated as self-deceit. Who's the self? Who's being deceived?
The Ksil deceives himself. That's how I'm defining
it. So then I don't understand how the approach works with that translation, because it seems like the pasuk is talking to the chacham, right?
Well, we're just saying it's talking to the guy, the audience of the previous pasuk, who was being told to avoid the ish ksil. So that we said, I think, is everybody.
So then I don't understand why we care about the fool self-deceiving himself.
Because if you hang around the fool, then you're going to end up, you're going to take on his qualities and lose the ability to get knowledge. Right? That was what the previous pasuk was saying. Sean's connecting to the previous pasuk. I mean, you can jump in also. Yeah. Right. Let's like, if you see it together. Let's go back here. So the way, and you know, I'm wondering also if we can maybe develop the previous one now that we see this one, which is go far away from the man who is a fool, lest you not know the lips of knowledge. So there we were saying that it's going to affect your ability to, I mean, we said lots of things, but it's going to affect your ability to like, to actually identify sources of knowledge that you can use to develop yourself intellectually. And then this pasuk is saying, not only are you going to corrupt yourself intellectually, but you're also going to lose, like in terms of understanding ideas, you're also going to lose the ability to like look at yourself critically, you know? You see how he's reading the two? Okay. All right. So Isaac, you had an idea.
Sean actually said my idea, but better.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Anything to add?
Yeah, so I just want to say, just make sure that it's.
We went to 9:30, if that's okay. I mean, yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding the approach. So yeah, we're talking. So this pasuk is talking about the phenomenon of the arm's self-knowledge versus the ksil's self-deceit.
Right.
And then, you know, and then what you do with that, with the facts of this pasuk is, you follow the advice of last pasuk. Is that what we're saying?
What you do with this pasuk is you follow the advice of the last pasuk. I mean, yeah, I would say it the other way around. I'd say that this is giving you yet another reason for the advice of the last pasuk.
Yeah.
Chaim?
I don't know where Isaac was laying out the pasuk. I thought Sean was saying that the wisdom of the cunning man understands the Xeel's way.
No, his own way. Yeah. Okay, his own way, right? So it's all about self-knowledge and self-deceit. Yeah. If you can figure out what's bothering you, and then we'll take it up. But yeah, David.
Okay. So different.
Yeah.
Talking about emotional intelligence. So the wisdom of the cunning man understands his own way, but the foolishness of fools is deceiving or deceit, really. And I think it's saying that to be in a home, that takes a lot of watching oneself and understanding oneself, and then having emotional intelligence coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
And now what the pasuk is really coming and telling us is really the second half of what you do from there. Now you have a self-knowledge to understand how people work. Where do you go from there? And if you think that, oh, great, I know how people work, I'm going to now deceive people, trick people, I'm going to be able to use and manipulate people, that's really just a foolish thing that's going to wind up turning you into a fool from there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a smart way to use that emotional intelligence, and there's like a poor way to use emotional intelligence. Yeah. This is warning you against what seems like a good, easy out of being able to get people.
Yeah.
It's not going to help.
Okay, so let me just get that down first. So this is, so according to Sean, the audience is everybody. According to you, it's the Arum specifically, yes. Right? Okay, so this is, the subject is the Arum's fork in the road, right?
Yeah.
Which is once he has self-knowledge, and now you put this in terms of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Is that how you're defining the chachma of the Arum?
That is what I was going. No, I was saying emotional intelligence.
Like, did you mean it the way that I meant, like knowledge of the psyche, or you meant something else?
I would see it going both directions. The reason why I asked emotional intelligence is I was looking at it, knowing oneself, and then knowing how people work, and then knowing how both he and other people operate. That's what using emotional intelligence.
Okay, so knowing how he works, which allows him to know how other people work. Okay, so once he has emotional intelligence, he can either use that for good, okay, which is having. Sorry, are you saying having Darko is defining it, or saying what he should do with it?
That's defining it.
Okay, fine. All right. So for good, okay. Or he could use it for evil, okay, to deceive people. And Shlomo is telling him that using this knowledge to deceive people is folly. Okay, so now we'd have to answer the question which he himself is not answering, which is why. Why is that a reason to not use this to deceive people? Or you can say that, you could say that other psukim talk about the follies of deceit, like, of like the Ramai, but it would be a little, I feel like I want more of the pasuk, more from this pasuk in terms of an idea within the pasuk. Meaning, I like the subject that you've identified, but I feel like this should be teaching us an idea, not just like, hey, buddy, go that way. Yeah. Ariel?
It's a separate one.
Okay. Did anyone have any immediate ideas on this, or should we? Okay.
I have some. I guess it's a little bit similar to both of theirs.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that the nature of the Aram's chachma is that he's going to turn it inward, and he's going to say, "Oh well, how can I make myself better?
Yeah.
How can I improve myself?"
Right.
But what the Xeel does is he's just going to focus on other people.
Yeah.
And try to kind of.
That's what I thought David was saying. That's why I asked if the first half is defining the chachma, like Sean was saying, or if it's telling him what to do with the chachma. I like telling him what to do with the chachma better. Yeah. So that's I'm going to preserve what you said, but I'll have Moshe's addition here is that the first half is telling him to take that self-knowledge. Oh, there's a great you guys have seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. So there's a great line. I'll have to quote it later on. Yeah. That'll be the next. This is just Purim skit. Yeah. Okay. The first half is telling him to take that self-knowledge and turn it inwards, where as opposed to.
I was thinking of a different line. That's probably not the only thing.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it puts the Avelis on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. Yeah. Okay. All right. Turning it outwards, and using it to take advantage of other people. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's a good thing for the first half. Now, if we can so that I'd be happy with for the way you're saying the second half, because then it's not spelling out the benefits of understanding your own way, and it's not telling you the detriments of deceiving people. Those are dealt with in other psukim. But it is telling you that this is a fork in the road, and that there are two ways you can like invest your energy, like outward and inward. I'm just going to mention a point that Rabbi Moskowitz always said, and then Rav Pesach said this at the Oneg a couple of weeks ago, or he said something similar, which is that when you're first starting off, it is very hard to apply Mishlei to yourself, because we don't want to see our own faults. So Rabbi Moskowitz would always say, practice it on other people. Use Mishleic analysis to look at other people's bad decisions and the causes and the consequences. And eventually what's going to happen is, if you keep on practicing that and you get good at spotting it, then one day you'll be looking in the mirror and you'll be like, it me, and you'll see that like that's you're the Ksiel, which is what I'm writing about this morning. Yeah, hopefully that'll come out later on today. Yeah, you have another approach?
Yeah, it's not fully worked out.
Sure.
But maybe you said the wisdom of the command understands his own way. Meaning I think it's similar to like what Moshe was saying, but it's like if he has like true understanding of his lifestyle and of his ways, like he'll know that he, and through his understanding, he'll recognize that where his consistencies are and where his inconsistencies in life are as well, and he'll, I don't think man, wants to default into being inconsistent with his lifestyle. I think, in terms of your values, you want to be consistent in all areas, with your own, value system or whatever it is, right? So when the foolishness pulls deceit, I want to say that like he's kind of like deceiving himself, because when someone's foolish and he's not like thinking about his lifestyle, he may act one way which is totally in contradiction with another situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, I don't know if I'm giving too much credit to the Ksil, but I want to say that maybe somewhere deep down, maybe he does recognize it at some level, and I think even that would bother someone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do think,
but it's like, I don't know.
I mean, I do think it's reasonable to assume that the Ksil perceives it deep down, because that's why he hates knowledge and hates Musar so much.
Right.
If he was totally like, there has to be part of him that senses either that this would be advantageous to him, or that he's not in conformity with it, or some combination of the two. Otherwise, he wouldn't react like with hatred to Chacham. He would just ignore it.
Right. So what is it deceiving? It's like he's deceiving himself, but it's not just on the surface level. He's deceiving himself, and he's okay with it. Like the Kiddush is that he's not really okay with it. And yet somehow it's still a contradiction. Like if he's not okay, why doesn't he change? But it's almost like this. He has this emotional drive or whatever it is to like not, fix himself.
Okay, so I like all the ideas you're saying, but I'm not sure.
Speculating a little bit.
I'm not seeing it emerge from the pasuk. I think you could read it into the pasuk. I'm not like, it seems very, very broad. So like that's just an area to like work on there. I just want to throw something else on the table also. We haven't spoken for a while about Ken's theory of Mishlei, about the middleman theory. Are you? So the middleman theory was a kind of like our pivot point theory, but for Mishlei, which is that it's not okay, whatever. Is that there are two extremes in the pasuk, but then there's always a middleman that is either a third midah or quantitatively like it's between the two. Usually, if it's a third midah, then that's good. But here's a good example of this: that on the one side, you have someone who understands his derech. On the other side, you have someone who deceives himself about his derech. And then in the middle, you have someone who's ignorant of his derech. So when you're ignorant of your derech, you still are embracing the contents of your mind about your derech are false, but you're not going out of your way to like self-deceive. You just like let's take, for example, like someone who is like a kid. Let's say you have like let's say like a 13-year-old kid who plays basketball and thinks that he's the best player. I wouldn't say he's deceiving himself. He's just so naive that he just hasn't been exposed to what real skill is, or hasn't like had enough evidence of his his lack of skill. So he is ignorant of his derech. The Ksil is the person who will stubbornly insist that they have a certain quality that is good when really it's the opposite of good, and then the Arum will see his own real limitations. So that's not a full approach to the puzzle, but that's just observation. Yeah.
Can I just share how I'm getting for the puzzle?
Yeah.
So I want to say that, like when the pasuk says understands and when the pasuk also says mirma, I want to say that like it's almost like it's a formula.
Okay.
And like the deceit is showing you the consequence of of not of that internal contradiction, right? And the understanding is almost like the first step to to putting yourself on the right path, which is being consistent with your lifestyle.
Yeah. So where are you seeing the consistency thing? The theme.
The deceit.
The deceit.
I mean, the foolishness of fools, like they live in contradiction. And what happens when you live in contradiction? You're just deceiving yourself, right? But when you understand your ways, you're gonna do whatever is necessary to make sure you don't fall into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think the other reason why I'm being bothered by this is I feel like the psukim that, and it's not necessarily being bothered just by this, but the psukim that there are a lot of psukim about people who are internally inconsistent. Isn't that the one that you started off with in the summer? Isn't there? Do you remember which one that was?
It was one of them, I think so.
Yeah. Like Ikish Drachav or Nelos Drachav or like there's these different terms that Mishlei uses. Yeah. When it wants to emphasize like internal inconsistency or and I think that's why I'm not intuitively inclined to go with your idea. Yeah. I don't think it's a wrong idea. In other words, if Mishlei were saying that idea, I think it would be more explicit in highlighting the inconsistency in the path, not merely the deceit. That's why like saying that this is about self-deception, I'm on board with it, or if it's about deceiving others, but saying it's about using self-deceit to mask an internal inconsistency, and that internal inconsistency is not being talked about in the pasuk, is just a little bit too
Well, I mean, it is self-deception. It's not.
Right, but you're saying that the real subject is not self-deception. The real subject is the.
No, well, that's the outcome. Self-deception is the outcome. I mean, that's what it means to deceive. Like you're deceiving yourself.
The outcome.
I mean, that's the consequence.
Mm-hmm. Of not. All right, I got to think about it some more. I'm not sold on it. Okay, let's just read the Metzudas David just so we can have it in our mind for tomorrow, and then we'll stop for today. Okay, Metzudas David says, "Chachmas Aram Yesod Chachmas Aram, the foundation of the wisdom of the Aram." Who lahavin darko is to understand his way. Laval yasek he's done, not to act haphazardly. That's interesting. So darko is not his psyche; it's his actions. Like Derek in terms of like what you do. Okay, because he's talking about acting haphazardly. So in other words, doing everything with with consciously, doing everything like through thought. The Yesod Ivelas Haksilim, the foundation of the foolishness of fools, he asos hamirma shechashvu, is to do the deceit that they planned. Kilo yasu gam hema kfi haizam, and they also don't act based on happenstance. So that's very interesting, right? So both of these people are making conscious decisions. The Arum is doing it. So he doesn't characterize it in quite a symmetrical way, right? Because he's saying that the fools act deceitfully. The Arum, he's not saying acts honestly, right? Or acts with integrity, But he's saying that the subject here is that these are two extremes of people who act in a calculated manner. That's the word, right? They act in a calculated way.
The first half of what he said is kind of like what I was trying to get at it with the haven. But the second half, I never thought that it still would.
Right. No, I do agree with you. This is similar to what you're saying. This is also similar to what David is saying because it's talking about like the Arum and actually, structurally it's similar to what David is saying. The Arum and the Ksil are both one step more developed than, let's say, for example, the Pesi, who I think does do stuff like in a haphazard way. Like he's just like acting based on like the whims of the moment. Yeah, David.
Just to start another possible approach. Could this be talking to someone who's looking at other people, one person who's an Arum, one person who's a Kasil, and seeing the way that that those people react to, say, making a mistake, and the Arum you can just observe an Arum will be looking at his mistake and then reflecting back on himself, accepting that I made a mistake and seeing what did I do wrong, and the Kasil will be much more covering up his mistake, putting on something else, doing some sort of trick that's not him. And this is telling you to look at those two different people and to know who's like a smarter person that you should follow and who's someone who's really just tricking you and making himself look good without actually being correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I just missed it. Are you also going on the premise that this is a continuation of the previous pasuk?
Not necessarily.
Okay, because when you're talking about like who to go to.
Sure. I mean, I hadn't think about that.
All right. So let's let this percolate, and then we'll come back to Leonardo tomorrow and see what they say. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for
Thank you.
adopting or adapting, not adopting.